Hey, Ross here with Initiate, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the Notion client portal I've developed to manage multiple clients, multiple projects and multiple deadlines within my small architecture studio. Now there's no doubt that running a solo practice is challenging, and one of the most challenging parts of that is the management of multiple clients, projects, deadlines, invoicing, contracts. There's a lot of documents on every project that can get chaotic pretty quickly. Now to ease some of that pressure, I've developed a Notion client portal that is a one-stop shop location shared with my clients that we can collaborate and communicate throughout the entire project timeline. So let's take a look at how I use this template to make sure that I never miss a deadline and I'm always up to speed with where multiple projects are when they're running in conjunction with one another. Okay, so here's my Notion setup. Now you can either download my client portal from the link in the description, or you can use this video as a template to create your own. Now if you download my portal, you should see in your Notion sidebar the project dashboard. Now you want to keep an original copy of the project dashboard and duplicate it for every time you create a new project. So to do that, just simply click the three dots, duplicate, and you'll create a fresh copy. So here's your project dashboard ready to be populated with a new project. Now this is a place for you to introduce the project, introduce your process, and it contains key information that's easily accessible throughout the duration of a project. So the way in which I've structured the project dashboard is with a header that contains a clock and your studio operating hours beneath, a simple introduction for your client when they're accessing the portal, a project status tab that shows the work stage you're currently working on, the start date of that work stage and the targeted end date, and a quick link to frequently asked questions that we often receive from clients. Now the first thing to do would be to name it to a project specific title. So for instance, let's say Hill House Dashboard. Now in your sidebar, you'll see that that's now project specific and easily accessible. So if we scroll down, in the left sidebar here, there's a number of key tabs. So there's an overview where you can provide some creative text summarizing the client's brief and project aspirations. A navigation tab that has quick links to each of the pages within the client portal. A project directory that when you first start the project might just be the client and yourself as the architect. But you can duplicate these tabs and add structural engineers, other consultants, perhaps the building contractor or the building control inspector, and so on. And below that is a table extract that is linked to the invoicing page of the portal. And this just provides a snapshot of the current financial status of the project. So invoices that have been paid, invoices that are awaiting, and some invoices that aren't yet issued. The primary component of the project dashboard is the hour journey, or effectively the process that you'll be taking the client on from start to finish. Now I find this useful because it effectively summarizes the work stages and provides a simple and easy to understand step-by-step process from stage one to the end of a project. Now the first stage that I have here is a stage 0 design workshop, and that's either a site visit or a virtual meeting to understand the client's brief, their aspirations, and to check that we're a good fit for each other before we embark on a project together. Now once the workshop has been completed and we've decided that we're a good fit, then this is where I store the fee proposal and the appointment documents before progressing the other stages of the project. And you can change the status bar at the bottom here to complete. And following that, I then have the RIBA Work Stages. So stage 1, brief and preparation, a simple summary of what the client can expect from each work stage, and key deliverables associated with each work stage, and that continues through all stages. Now you can add to these by simply duplicating each column for whatever deliverables you've agreed with your client, and I've just added some typical deliverables in here to populate the template. So my process tends to be brief and preparation being a stage where we agree a client's brief and formalize that into a creative briefing document, and procuring survey information, so measured building surveys and any other key surveys that are needed to progress the project correctly and accurately. With stage 1 complete, then we move into a feasibility study, again with a series of deliverables against it, develop design, technical design, construction, post-completion, and when the building is in use. this should hopefully be self-explanatory, where you upload key deliverables beneath and it becomes one central location for all key documents on your project. Below the Our Journey section is a project timeline, and I really use this to highlight just the key milestones of a project. So the commencement and end date of each work stage, whether that's in progress, complete or not started, and the expected sign-off periods where you'll need a client to sign off the work before you move to the next work stage. I don't tend to complicate this section any more than that. However, you can add in more detail should you want to. So if we go back up to the top then and to the navigation bar, let's go through the number of pages that sit within this client portal. So the introduction page. This is where you can summarize the client's aspirations and brief and identify key objectives for the project from the start. And sometimes I append an image against that, whether that be an early concept sketch or an initial photograph just as a graphic tool. So if we scroll down here, we have a resources section. Now this is a place where the client can upload any information that is going to be useful to you. Pinterest boards, for instance, where you can get an understanding of the client's specific preferences and ideas. Existing site information, so often a client might already have a drainage or ecology survey or information on covenants and easements or ownership boundaries. Here's a space where they can upload each of those. And the existing property information, sometimes clients have measured survey drawings or specific building surveys that could be useful to progress the project, and they can be uploaded here. And below that we just have a short frequently asked questions section. Now these are populated with my responses. I would suggest to go in and just make sure that my responses align with your studio, but these are some of the frequently asked questions that we get asked. So back to the top and into the next page, which is contract. Now this is quite a simple page, and it's basically a page where you store the draft and signed contracts. So here in the contract details section, I would fill out who is the responsible person and their address, as well as their mobile and email address, and upload a draft appointment contract for review. Once that draft contract has been agreed, there's a signed contract tab here where I would upload the final signed digital PDF and just check that that's been signed by you, client, and a witness if required. And then this becomes a space where that gets stored for the duration of the project and beyond. Back to the nav bar, we have billing as the next page. I find this really useful for a number of reasons. So first section of it is a drawdown schedule. Now across all of the work stages there can be a lot of invoices to manage. I like to use this section to schedule out those invoices, which allows myself and the client to understand what's been paid, what's awaiting to be paid, and what they can expect to be billed in the future. I like to bill for stages 1 and 2 on a simple basis where there's a 40% pre-commencement fee and a 60% completion fee. So I've populated those within here. As the project goes into stages 3, 4 and 5, which become more intensive and potentially longer stages, I like to then bill on a more regular basis, so that might be a bi-weekly or a monthly basis, and that will all be populated in here so the client knows what to expect with that invoice schedule. So if we scroll down, we have a section for invoicing details. So here is a space where you can upload all invoice PDFs. Below that is confirmation of your bank details and account number and sort code for payment of those invoices. And on the right hand side here we have a build to, and we just confirm the client's name or company name and the address and contact details. If we go back to the nav bar, then we can go to the workspace page. This is a space that I use pretty freely throughout a project, where I upload to the ideas canvas an emerging diagram, a work in progress image, and you can request the client's thoughts on that, any key questions you might have. And often I use this page during a design review workshop where I'll preload it with some key images and take my laptop to a client meeting and type in responses to specific questions during that design review. So this can be a useful place just to track client's thoughts, brief changes, any ideas as your project develops. Onto the meetings page. Again, similarly to the billing page, this is really useful just to track the meeting schedule throughout all work stages. There can be a whole host of meetings during a project's lifetime, and this becomes a place where they can easily be tracked and ticked off as you move through each stage. So the first section is the meeting schedule, where I'll populate individual meetings that relate to specific work stages, and these can easily be changed and they're all populated within the drop-down. Stage 0 design workshop, the date and the time, and whether that's complete or scheduled. Now, if one of these meetings is to be a virtual meeting, you can add in a link to that meeting within the link column, and this becomes an area where there's no excuse to lose track of project meetings for both yourself and the client. Below that we have meeting agendas and meeting minutes. Now there's two ways of looking at this. You can either create meeting agendas and minutes within Notion, so there's a template within this that is usable for that, and you can simply type directly into this, and at the top here you're able to export as a PDF. Or what I like to do is to use these templates as a means of collecting notes when you're on site or during a meeting with a client, but then returning to the studio and using my own branded agendas and minutes and uploading the PDFs to this space, so you can store all meeting agendas and all meeting minutes in one location. Finally, the last page is feedback. Now this will only really be used at the end of a work stage or at the end of the entire project. But generally, I think us architects are quite poor at getting feedback and referrals and following that up. So the portal allows you to create a simple space where a client can give you feedback. So here we have simple links to social media as a means for our client to keep in touch. But also we have two sections and two ways of giving feedback. First is a Google review. Now you can paste your Google review link from your Google business account directly into here, and that becomes an easy way of accessing directly to the Google reviews page. Or alternatively, you might delete the Google review section and use this pre-made feedback form. It has a series of multiple choice answers to questions and the ability to type in a testimonial at the bottom. So with all of that populated, if we go back to our dashboard here, for every project you simply need to go through this and populate particular sections that require project specific input. But once this is set up, it becomes a very easy space for you to continually store, communicate and collaborate with your client. And I hope you find it as valuable as I find it in my practice workflow. Once all of that is populated and you're ready to share it with the client, this is a really easy process. You go to the top right here to the share button and you simply type in your client's email address and invite them to the portal. At that point, the portal will go underneath the shared folder within your sidebar, and that will then be shared with the client that they can come in and edit and add documents as and when they like.